Hey YouTubers, Rob here for a look at another Commodore 64 game. This time we're taking a look at the Sentinel. Originally developed by Geoff Crammond, who'd later go on to do the sublime stunt car racer in the F1 GP series of racing sims. Was originally released in 1986. He originally wrote it for the BBC Micro and brought it over to C64. I believe, I can't get the exact details confirmed, but I believe it was either simultaneous or close after. But the BBC was the original version. So of course, there's a fairly Spartan presentation because of being based on that machine's original less RAM. So the Sentinel is probably one of the more unique games I think I've ever played. It's basically abstract landscape. You control a sort of robot that can create shells of itself that can transfer them, and your ultimate goal is to get to the top of this landscape, absorb the titular Sentinel, and move on. One thing is certain is the replayability. There's actually 10,000 stages. To start with, you have to actually, you don't exactly get to them in sort of fashion. You do get passwords to be able to fetch them later. But the fact there's like that many stages, and it's actually not a linear jump. You complete a stage, and based on factors like your energy level and some other details, it'll actually randomly pick which stage you'll move to out of a certain range, and then you'll pardon me, and then you'll get a code to be able to start from that stage the next time you play. So I'm just going to play through the first stage, so we don't have to deal with worrying about passwords and whatnot. Just show you what. So you dive in. So we'll start at landscape 0. Now it's sort of rendering. One of the things is, obviously with a game that's running on a 32K microcomputer, it uses a lot of procedural content, which is why it's a little sluggish when you're moving, like just going through these screens. I think it's all procedural code. So you can sort of see the layout of the land here. See the Sentinel standing on its spot in the middle. I can't remember if your position is fixed or randomized, but you start at somewhere at the lowest point of the landscape, and you need to move up. So we'll dive into the level, and we'll start exploring. So this is what I never really did play much of back in the day, but we'll sort of break it up. Along the top left, you've got your energy. The way that works is, currently you've got 10 units of energy. A tree is 1 unit, the robot is 3 units, and there'll be a rock which is 2. So first thing we'll do is we'll absorb this tree. Controls themselves are pretty simple. It's SD, it's all keyboard based, so SD to pan horizontally, L and the comma key to pan vertically, spacebar turns that little cross on, R builds the robot shell, Q jumps into it, you can use T to build a tree, which costs 1 energy point, B to build a boulder, which takes 2 energy points, R to build the robot, which takes 3, A can absorb any other object that you can see the base of, H is an emergency hyperspace move. It moves you somewhere lower when you're being spotted, and that costs 3 points because you move. Oops. All right. The bar in the top right, which is empty now, is good because it means we're safe. But essentially, getting my keys wrong here. Essentially, when that starts filling up with sort of like static, it means the Sentinel can see you. Where it starts at its point, it'll just rotate around. So we are absorbed. Alright, I don't think we can see the tree. So, oh, there we are. Okay. So let's go around. Alright, I'm just going to have to hyperspace out of there. So in that case, you can see the bar start filling up with sort of a static pattern. And that meant that the Sentinel could in fact see the base, like the actual square that my robot was sitting on. And as it started doing it, it started to absorb energy, and if it absorbed all my energy, it would be game over, and I'd be defeated. So let's, hopefully we can try again and get on that square again. And of course, when it absorbs energy, it redistributes as additional trees in the landscape. Which I think is, you know, you sort of have that zero-sum game, you know. The energy that you, the player, have collected plus the energy of the trees always equals a set amount. So, let's keep going. Can't do much there. You sort of see, it's sort of, yeah, it's a nice. It's not the most frantic thing out there. You do jump a bit when you are confronted with the Sentinel spotting you, but. And I like the way that sort of builds up in that regard. You're slowly moving around, trying to increase height. As you get into like later levels, for instance, you actually have to deal with more than the Sentinel. It actually has meanies that if you happen to have if it happens to spot you but can't directly like start absorbing your energy, and there's a tree nearby, it'll turn the tree into a meanie, which would try to force you to hyperspace. So you've got to deal with like these extra elements in there. So even though the pattern is still more or less the same as it is, yeah, there's all these there's these little elements that come in. You know, much trickier landscapes. There are also assistant sentinels called sentries that do the same thing, where now it means that you have less viable positions to hold, like to you know, you pardon me, that you suddenly have less space to be able to move to, and use for a U-turn, so that we can just easily jump to the other side when looking. So we're gonna try. So I like the fact that all these aspects of the game come together to sort of build. Ooh, that was close. You can sort of see. Still not high enough. That's the pedestal that the Sentinel's on, so we'll have to keep panning around, see if we can find something. So tense when this happens. But I like this whole idea of the height aspect, where you're building towards that height. You're not just... You're having to build up your height in order to be able to... In order to be visible. Okay, oops. The wrong key there. So... Oh, that was cool. You have to just be on the base of the square. I always thought you had to be on the actual surface that the object was sitting on, but looks like that doesn't seem to be the case. You can see the Sentinel. Yeah, that means we've absorbed him. Which means... So once you've absorbed the Sentinel, you build a robot in its place, jump to it, Sadly, you can't absorb. Yeah, once you've defeated the Sentinel, you can't absorb anymore. So you just hit hyperspace, and you complete the stage. So here we are. Now I can jump onto landscape 10. I think at this stage it's probably not worth me going into show another level. You can sort of see the basic flow of how the Sentinel works. It's still such a really unique game to play, and one that I really think you have to hunt down. I mean, regardless, not necessarily C64. I mean, it got ported to the Amiga, the Atari ST, and the other main 8-bits, British 8-bits at the time, the Spectrum and the CPC, as well as the BBC. There was a later sequel that came out, I think it was 1997, on the PC and PlayStation, Sentinel Returns. That's also worth checking out. So it's a game that's just really, really abstract, really weird, but one that's very compelling, where you're just sitting there, very tense, very interesting atmosphere. One, as I said, I think it's something that you do have to check out. It is a classic, just for the tone. I think there's something playing on the older systems just for the sort of minimalistic nature of the graphics. But yeah, definitely one that's worth checking out. It's amazing. It's just so unique. So that's that. I hope you enjoyed that. Look forward to bringing you another game soon.